And thank you for joining me on the show today. This is the Now Talks, a collection of inspiring personal stories and leadership lessons from some of the world's most iconic leaders. It is the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. My name is Dr. Tina Allton, and I'm your host for today and the coming weeks. Welcome back again to another episode of the Now Woman Talks, which is the podcast really for every woman in leadership. And our goal here is not just to empower you, but to inspire you and really celebrate you as a woman in leadership. And so in the current season, we've been, building on gratitude and community coming into alignment. And this week, we want to really build on all the many conversations we've been having, about gratitude and exploring, what are some of the other essential skills for us to succeed as leaders? And I think you can all guess what's coming. Drum roll, please. Yes, we are going to be talking about effective communication today. So, really, if I, just think back through my own journey as a leader, one thing always keeps coming up and standing out, and that is our ability to communicate clearly, confidently, and in a way that is significant. Why? Because it impacts on our relationships. It impacts on, your team or even your suppliers, your home, your family, your friends, and even, I would say, everybody that really gets the opportunity to interact with you. So I want us to drive right into the heart of effective communication, learning how we can elevate our leadership game. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your water, sit down, relax, and let's have our conversation. And if you are like some of my friends who like to walk the dog in the morning, then grab that lead, grab that dog, and let's take a walk. So we're going to really delve into the importance of effective communication in leadership. And I think it's fair game to say that for every leader, the backbone of your leadership really comes down to communication. How are you communicating? It's how you connect with everyone. It is how you convey your vision. It is how you drive results. And I actually believe that even how we communicate as leaders actually is the key that helps us to build trust. And it is also the key that helps us to, foster communication, collaboration rather, and create a very positive environment for, those that you work with. I don't know whether you work by yourself or you have other, team members, or maybe you lead an organization. Maybe you lead a company. Maybe you lead a small business. It doesn't matter, the size of organization you lead or how long you've been leading. It is very true. The communication is your backbone. It's how you're going to connect. It's how you're going to convey your vision, and it's how you're going to drive results. And if you want the key that truly underpins communication, it is the fact that how well you communicate, how clearly, how confidently you communicate can help build trust and foster greater unity, collaboration, and overall positive environment. So conversely, poor communication can also lead to a whole host of problems and issues. It can lead to misunderstanding. It can lead to decreased morale, reduced productivity, and therefore, really as a leader, your communication, not just the style or the tone, but the overall composition of how you communicate is crucial to develop, to refine, and to, I would say, polish and continuously seek ways to improve on your communication skills as a leader. And I think one thing is very important to point out, and that is that effective communication actually involves way more than just, I've got to speak clearly, or that, I've got to, speak nicely, slowly, raise my eyebrows, raise my hand. It's way more than that, right? It has many, several, I would say, key components. And at any point in time when you're communicating, I find that you would use one, or you'd use, I would say, a combination of these components. So in no particular order. And normally when I share these teachings or tips or whatever it is, it's not necessarily in any specific priority, but I've got a number just because it helps me to keep my focus. So the first thing I would say is active listening. I mean, how often, and certainly I think it's fair to say we all know somebody that, you're speaking to them, they're not paying attention, or they're looking at you, but they're not even interested. I think a very good example is when you call your bank. When you call your bank and you're speaking to somebody on the other end of the phone, I mean, you don't even see the face of this person, but my goodness, immediately when whoever's on the other side of the phone is no longer paying attention to you, is no longer interested, they just not listening. And yet you can tell them that they're on the line. Yeah, kind of like groaning noises, but they just not paying attention to you. So how does that make you feel? Think back to that. How does that make you feel when you last called your bank and they just were not interested? Likewise, maybe you're at a networking event, you're actually face to face with a person, you're talking to them, they're smiling at you, they're kind of like, turning their head, nodding their head, kind of like, but that they're not paying attention. How did you get that? How did you know? How did you actually know that? You know what? I know you're smiling at me. I know you're nodding your head. You're not paying attention. How did you know? That is the question. And that is also the key. So as leaders, it is important that as we are communicating, that we're actually we're actively listening, paying attention to what the other person is saying, and asking clarifying questions. It's being able to show empathy. It's being able to allow ourselves through the act of active listening to understand, the other person, to understand what it is they're trying to convey to us, the heart of the message. Because oftentimes, if you listen well, actively, I promise you will hear the unspoken. You would know that somebody's saying something to you and there's something else that's not being said, but you're able to know the unspoken as you actively pay attention and listen. The other thing quite important to mention is that when we as leaders are actively listening, it actually makes the other person you're in communication with feel valued, makes them feel respected, makes them feel heard. And if it's your team member or somebody you work with or somebody you're trying to do a business with, it actually makes them feel inspired and think, you know what, this is someone I can actually work with. Second thing or component to think about is clarity. You have to be very concise in articulate your message or whatever it is that you're conveying. I'm sure you would have spoken to somebody, you spent a considerable amount of time with them, they said so many things, but then you kind of like in the midst of it, you kind of like, I'm confused, like I don't really understand what it is you're trying to say, right? Or they'll say something and completely misinterpret what it is they're saying. So as leaders in our communication, one of the key components that we must be aware of, we must do, and we must maintain at all times is clarity. Can I articulate what I'm trying to say to you, the message I'm trying to say to you? Can I articulate to say it in a way that is concise, that really avoids you getting confused or being misinterpreted, right? And so then the third one I would say is our nonverbals. And as a psychologist, I think it's it's no brainer for any of us. It's really not rocket science when somebody's speaking to you. We're all able to understand the nonverbals and interpret. We put our own interpretation of it, and most of the time, our own interpretation that we put on it is based on our own experiences, our own past experiences, or our own awareness that we carry. And that's why, as a leader, it's very, very important that your nonverbals don't create confusion. Like, be mindful of your body language, your facial expressions, the tone of your voice. They all can significantly impact how your message is perceived. Did you see what I just did there? Like the body language that you carry, the facial expressions, and the tone of your voice, they all significantly impact your message and how it is received. Let's give you an example. So, this is taking a family scenario because I always believe that, okay, we're leaders. By the end of the day, the first thing is that we're human beings. So, you've got to lead yourself first, and your leadership needs to start from your home. So if at home, you're not leading well, then, what are you doing trying to lead other people? So with that in mind, let's go back to the home. You were going out in the morning, and you are saying goodbye to your kids, to your partner, or your spouse, whatever it is, and you tell them, "Morning, I'm on my way to work right now, and I love you." It's like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, okay, you missed the point. You just missed the point of what are you trying to communicate, right? So I mean, something like that were you able to imagine what my face looked like? But say, "Hey, good morning. I'm on my way out now. Have a great day. I love you." Right? It's very, very different. Can you tell the nonverbals that I'm using right now? Is the tone in my voice making any difference to you? Is it helping you to perceive the meaning of what I just said differently to you? If it is, then as a leader, it is very important how we communicate. Our nonverbals are very important. I would say number 4 is emotional intelligence. You have to be aware of your emotions and the emotions of other people as well. You've got to adjust accordingly to their communication style. And I think one great way of being able to really understand, like, mature in your emotional intelligence as leaders. If you've not done this before, then you need to look at it. It's the DISC profile. And we have one of our thinking partners, Esther, based in Canada. She's an amazing communicator and a great, teacher, trainer, instructor on the DISC profile, which is the DISC. So the D is the person, who's very dominant, the influencer, the social, you have to look at the DISC profile because that would help you to understand how people are wired differently. And therefore, you can then apply, that knowing how they're wired, you can then have maturity from an emotional perspective and be able to communicate, with effective emotional intelligence. So you're aware of how do I speak to a D? How do I, work with a D? How do I build with a D? How do I collaborate with a D? How do I collaborate with a C? And your nonverbals, the clarity, your active, all of those things would be pretty significantly impacted for the good, in my opinion. So growing in emotional intelligence as a leader really truly helps to impact and transform your communication style. Number 5 is adaptability. You have to tailor your style to suit different situations, different audiences, different preferences. If you're speaking to, let's say you're a speaker, and you're speaking to young adults, how you speak to them, they're very, very different to if you're speaking to, senior adults, or let's say middle managers or C-suite, or, whatever it is. You have to be able to adapt your communication style as a leader, based on situation, based on audience, based on preferences, and a whole other things. Obviously, we can't exhaust all of those, but this is, I like these 5 should get you going. And hopefully help you to, build on that already. So practical application, because that's what we like to, do here, is how can you practically apply these to your communication skill? Okay, so we've uncovered or covered the key components that I shared previously on how to be effective in your communication. So these practical tips are supposed to help you to enhance the skill, if you will. So how can you ask us, say, so Tina, how do you say practice, active listening? How do I do that? Well, here is one great way to do that. Avoid interrupting others and give them your full attention when they're speaking, period. Repeat that. Avoid interrupting others and give them your full attention when they're speaking. I think we all know, when you're speaking to somebody, they're constantly cutting. You're like, okay, hear me out, give me a chance. Let me finish. So same way as a leader, one great way is just, I'm sure there's many other ways too, but one great way to practically practice active listening is do not interrupt, period. Give your full attention, period. Number 2, keep it simple. Use clear, very concise language. Avoid jargon, avoid complex terms. If it's salt, please tell me salt. Don't use chemical names, just say it's salt. If it's table, it's table. If it's pen, it's a pen. If it's ink, it's ink. If it's water, it's water. Don't tell, can you bring me the H2O? It's like, please, can we just keep it simple? Keep it super simple. KISS, K-I-S-S, keep your communication super, super simple. Number 3, nonverbal. So be mindful of nonverbal cues. For example, maintaining eye contact with somebody, really helps to communicate that you're interested, you're focused, you're listening. Use open body language and be aware of the tone of your voice. So you want to say, I love you, I love you. So I love you. Oh, I love you. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, okay, what you might be saying might be great, but it completely deviates from, the message is completely skewed up. So be aware of the tone of your voice. I didn't even know I had that voice, but there we are. 4, seek feedback. Ask for input from your, team members or those of you work with a biocommunication style, and be open to make adjustments. I think a leader who does not like feedback, who does not ask feedback, I think that's problematic. As a leader, your biggest asset is always asking for feedback. And you know what? Sometimes it's not going to be what you want, but be tough, have tough skin, toughen up, grow up already and get over yourself already. Ask feedback, no matter how hard the feedback is, no matter how, different to perhaps your expectation or your perception it is. Look at it. Okay, is there any truth in the feedback I've received? If there's any truth in it, you know what? Great. Bingo. You've got an asset, you've got something to work with. So 5, engage in role play exercises, practice your communication skills in a safe environment. Maybe with a trusted friend or a colleague, ask if you have something really, really important to say, then practice. So effectively being able to communicate is a vital skill for you to succeed as a leader. You have to focus on actively listening, being clear, having great nonverbal skills, emotional intelligence, being able to adapt. All of these will help you to really, truly connect, help you to convey your vision and drive results. So to recap, effective communication is really, it's essential in your leadership. It is the key ingredient, I would say, the glue that helps you to build trust faster. If you want to be able to build trust fast and be effective in your communication, it creates a positive environment for everybody that you work with. There are key components that help you, and these are actively listening, being clear, nonverbal communication, your emotional intelligence, being able to adapt. And the practical tips for you to enhance your communication skills is practice active listening. Don't interrupt. Keep your message simple. Be mindful of your nonverbal cues. Be mindful of your tone. a voice, seek feedback, and engage in role play. Practice, practice, practice. So I do hope that this has been useful to you and valuable to you. As always, write to us, let us know what else would you add to it. What have you applied and what has been the results that you have seen. Until we come your way next week, enjoy all that is ahead of you and enjoy the pursuit of your potential. Ciao, ciao. And that's all for this week. You've been listening to Dr. Tina Allton with the Now Talks, the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. All that remains is for me to say have a fantastic week, stay safe, and reach out if you need any help now at nationsofwomen.com. Until next time, enjoy the pursuit of your potential, and remember, now is your time.